Hello and welcome to Keep Hope Alive. We have made it to season 17. I am so excited because we have a bunch of new guest speakers for this season going into winter time. And our special guest today is Mike Chapman, who is going to be talking, hi, about brain spotting. So he's a certified recovery life coach and founder of Polar Life Consulting. So we're going to be diving into that. But there's a whole other side of him. And I'm going to tell you, it could be sad, but we're going to get through this. So if you're one to get tissues, go grab 'em. But first, before I always start my shows, Mike, I'm going to ask you a question.
Certainly.
How many weddings have you been to in the past, let's say 15 years?
Maybe 4 or 5.
4 or 5, good. Okay,
Mhm.
so if you're going into a wedding and you're walking into, let's say, a church, right to the right, usually there's something to sign to say that you were there. What is it that you're signing?
Oh, that's usually a guest book, and sometimes they have someone actually standing there bringing you and giving you the fancy pen, and you write your name and address with the fancy pen in this lovely little fancy book.
That is awesome. And I love to hear that they're doing the address now because that's something new that I inquired with my daughter's baby shower. I made envelopes and everybody wrote their address on it, so it was easier for her to send the thank yous.
Oh,
So that's really
yes.
good.
Very
I'm glad to
nice.
hear that
Yes.
starting to do that. Well, one of our sponsors here is called Life on Record, and what they do is instead of having a guest book, it is a vintage rotary phone they put out there. So when you go in there, you pick up the phone and you can say, congratulations on your big day. Or maybe it's a groomsman. Hey, it's about time you put a ring on her finger. So right next to that vintage phone, they have a QR code too. So if you're standing in line to wait but you don't want to wait, you can get out your cell phone and scan the QR code and leave it from your phone too. So you can do it before or after the wedding. And it's not only good for weddings, you can use it for reunions, birthdays, anniversary, big parties, maybe even prom, just something fun. Funerals, I have to say funerals because that's important. Now, I called this lifeonrecord.com the gift of voice. So after they collect all these messages, you can either get it burned on a 12-inch vinyl record or they have a keepsake speaker that they will give you. So if it was a wedding, you take out that cake and you're eating it. You can put it on the record or the boom. I call it boom box too. Listen to all your friends and family saying congratulations, and just have that memory of that event that you had. So it looks like you might have a question.
Well, I'm wondering for I'm glad it's a QR code because I know a lot of millennials, they see those older phones and it's like, what do I do? And that, especially if it's rotary phone, do you have to dial anything when you pick up the phone or you just pick up the
No,
receiver and
I
go?
think you
So
pick
it's
it up.
really, so it's really easy. That's smart.
Yes, I don't think they would know what to. I hate to laugh at that. They'd be like, "What's this?"
Right. What is this strange device and why does it have the circles with all those little circles in it? Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes. It's
Well,
like,
I know I'm 46, and if I ever get married again, I say I am definitely getting that. Or even for just my 50th birthday or something. I definitely want to have it there so I can collect the voices of my friends and everything. So,
right.
but they start their plans at $99. You get the phone number. You got to return the phone, but you get the phone number for 1 year. And if you would like more information on them, you can go to www.lifeonrecord.com. All right, well, let's get started. I want to know who Mike Chapman is.
Well, like you said, I am a certified recovery life coach, and my company is Polar Life Consulting. I mostly have a focus on male survivors of childhood sexual abuse, sexual trauma. I am also a certified coach with husbandmaterial.com, which is a faith-based ministry helping men overcome pornography addiction. And when I joined, we discovered so many men in that realm also were experiencing childhood sexual abuses when they were younger, and some of that informed their addictions. So I made that my focus while working with that group as well, husbandmaterial.com. And very, very helpful with men overcoming pornography addiction. We've got our own private uh, community. We have over 5,000 men who've signed up and have joined the free version. There's also a paid version where they have more structured lessons and more coaching available for those in the paid section as well. But there's tons of free offerings, including their own podcast with tons of information on overcoming pornography addiction. I also have my own podcast talking about survivors of abuse, specifically male survivors, and I throw out a few topics here and there, but then also I have a platform where male survivors can come and share their stories in
Okay.
safe place and supportive place where they can share some anonymously, and I honor
Mhm.
that. And the reason why is because that's part of my own story as well. I was sexually abused by my father when I was younger, and then actually was trafficked by him from ages 5 to 8 to what they call sexual exploitation events. Um, and all those traumas, all that stuff was repressed until I was older. The abuse till I was 30, and then I uncovered those memories. And then the trafficking, because I was sedated for almost all of it, the trafficking only came out in 2019, and now it's 2024. So that's 5, 6 years ago when that came out, only recently. The fact that
Mhm.
I had been trafficked and dealing with that and all the pain that that uncovered and finding different therapies and so forth. And so much trauma therapy practice and research has only happened in the last 10, 15 years. And so many new therapies have come out as a result of that. And the most common is called EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I think I got that
Very
right.
good.
That's a
Yeah,
lot. That's a
very good.
mouthful.
I'm impressed.
That's a mouthful. But it is becoming the de facto standard for trauma therapy. Uh, and unlike CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and other talk therapies, let me show you. Okay, this is a model of the brain. So it would sit right here. And this, you can get these on Amazon, which is wonderful. So if you have anatomy class or whatever, but we're going to open it up and we've got all these color
Okay.
codings on here and they're all labeled. But basically, this green area up front, this is the frontal, let's see, frontal lobe, the cerebrum in here. That's where all the language center is. So any kind of talk therapy is only going to touch this area of the brain. And trauma, a lot of that trauma, sexual trauma and young childhood trauma, is actually stored way back, what they call the midbrain, these lower areas of the brain that don't have access to language. So its feelings, its body memories, all those things are trapped in here. And what EMDR does and others that were developed since then, including brain spotting, is access those parts of the brain using different techniques beyond just talk therapy that only reach this area here. And that can be very helpful and very healing and helpful in the healing process. But when
Yeah.
there's deep set traumas, that this type of therapy has a harder time accessing. So, what
Gotcha.
Brainspotting is, the book that it's based off of, Brainspotting, that's the author, David
Grand
Grand,
PhD.
PhD. He was a provider of EMDR, went through the trainings and so forth, but then discovered that um, when working with some of his patients during the EMDR process, he would notice their eyes and notice what their eyes were doing during some of the processes and some of the talk and so forth, and discovered he could, without doing the full EMDR process. I have not actually experienced EMDR myself. My own therapist has done all kinds of other things um, with me. But I told him the other day, yeah, I'm a brain spotting provider now. It's, oh, excellent. And he was so excited to hear that.
Mhm.
But what that does, he found eye movements with his clients that he works with and was able to use those eye movements to access traumas in a different way from EMDR. But it was kind of based out of that same science. And what
Mhm.
he discovered, I don't know if you've ever like played poker and people have what they call a tell. And sometimes it's with eye gaze, or if you're caught telling a lie, sometimes it's like your eyes go up because you're processing that lie, and that's the tell. Why does your eyes do that? Because naturally, okay, this is a very heavy process I need to deal with. Okay, I need to look away, focus on this one little spot so I can access that new section of my mind so I can formulate a lie or whatever it is. Or you're talking about, remember that time when we were 5 and we went to the pool and that weird guy was there, or whatever it was, any weird memory. It's like, oh, let me think about that. And you turn to a side and you look at a spot. He discovered the brain is filled with these spots because the eyes, they say the eyes are the window to the soul.
Yes.
And that's the whole concept. That's so true. He discovered that this eye movement locks in to all these places in the middle brain, bypassing the language centers, going all the way down here. So he discovered, okay, let me test this. So he's just using his finger, and he would test with clients, talking about a memory issue, whatever they're having, focusing on that. Okay, well, think about that and follow my finger around. And then he would then see if there was some kind of body reaction, some kind of notice, maybe something as simple as an eye blink, might be a cough, might be a sneeze, might be a burp, might be something even more severe, where you're just like a shiver or a yawn, some kind of body motion that it didn't
Yeah.
happen. And then you can test it again. Oh, there's a response. Okay.
Yeah.
Thinking about that, but then your body reacts to that spot. Okay. There's the spot. Okay. And then I'm going to hold my finger while you still look at that. Okay. You're looking at that spot. Okay. And then you work through that. Just with you gazing in that spot, we're now accessing that core part of your brain so you can then process that particular trauma and see, okay, where does your brain want to go? And just with a few little prompts, it's more like nudging the person to
Mhm.
process whatever that is, whatever that issue is. And so much just gets unlocked and released. And um, it's amazing and it's weird, especially in the provider seat, because the provider doesn't do much. We just find the spot, okay, and let the client do what they need to do, and it just kind of happens, and it's weird and profound, and the people on the hot seat, wow, they're like amazed after like 40 minutes, 50 minutes of brain spotting, and then you debrief. It's like, wow, how did you,
How'd you get
what
there?
happened? It's this weird. Yeah, my colleague says it's weird mumbo jumbo stuff going on,
Yeah.
but very effective weird mumbo jumbo stuff. And but of these research that goes into those inner brain. How do we access the inner brain? And the concept, I love this term, neuroplasticity, which means our minds are not set in stone. And I love this model because it's actually kind of squishy. That our brains, you can teach old dogs new tricks. That they do research and they can actually see in a subatomic level new synapses forming in brains as we learn new things. So you can teach your brain new things. During this process, you can teach your brain to reprocess those traumas in new ways so they're not causing the pain, they're not causing the trauma, they're not affecting your life like a lot of those traumas do.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's amazing how effective it is. And what he discovered, okay, if I'm moving my finger and I'm doing this, oh, now I have to hold space. So now I'm holding my hand in midair for one client for an hour, another client for an hour, another client. Okay, all day, my arm's going to get really, really tired.
Hmm.
So he came up with the what he calls the magic wand, which is just it's like a big pointer stick and it's a little stretchy. So you can hold it with one hand, and I have wrist issues. So yeah, it's wonderful for me. So during a live in-person session, it doesn't have much of a tip to it, but for a live in-person session, that's all you need, and you can find those spots. Instead of him holding his finger, he can hold this down and move this thing without all the pressure on his arm, and he can go through all these sessions. COVID happened and everyone moved online, and it's hard to see. So most of them have some kind of topper. And I have this wonderful topper I discovered. It's actually a clown nose, which works brilliantly. And it just fits right on top of the topper. So it's visible, more visible on Zoom because it's this big round ball and it works brilliantly. I found that if I look through the party store trying to find some kind of thing to put on my wand, and it's like I found the clown nose dollar and pop that thing down. So now I use that, and it's beautiful on Zoom. It shows, and then I find it, and instead of holding it, I actually have a little jar of beads. I stick it in, so then I can just hold it on the desk, and it will
Yeah.
stay.
It
And
looks like a
uh,
microphone.
Right, right, exactly. But it can stay there and I can have hands free and do whatever. And that's the process. So it's not, there's no magic to it. It's just taking the place of your finger to hold that
Gotcha.
spot. So you can close your eyes and come back and that spot's still there and you go back to that spot to get that connection to that brain spot. That's why it's called brain
Yeah.
spotting. We're finding those spots in your brain that connect from your vision to the midbrain so you can process it. So that's the concept of brain spotting. I'm going to send you a link to this wonderful video that
Okay.
talks about a little bit about the science behind it, a lot better than I did. She's got this brain model as well, and she does a brilliant job describing it. I don't know, I think I did okay, but
You
she
did
does an
really
even better
good.
job describing it. And this is new for me. I just finished the training a few months ago and introduced it with my coaching client. One lovely thing about brain spotting, you do not need to be a licensed therapist to use this in your practice. And he's very clear this is just, you don't throw all your tools away and only use this. That's not his goal. This is a new tool for your toolbox. Figure out how to add this to the tools you're already using for your clients. And this is just another tool in your toolbox. And it's wonderful. It's more helpful if you're working with a client and you're already dealing with stuff. You're already helping them on their healing journey, whatever that is for that particular person. If you get someone fresh off the street, they haven't dealt with anything, this is going to be difficult for them. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
emotions, what? But if you start working with them, so they're dealing with, they're already getting into that headspace of dealing with their stuff, then yeah, it's a great tool to introduce.
Yeah.
But because we're not doing anything really, we're just helping them find that and helping them process it. Uh, that he makes it clear, yes, you can be a trainer. You don't have to be a trained therapist. There's pastoral counselors who use brain spotting, all these different things instead of only licensed professionals, only licensed therapists can use this. No, that it's actually effective, and he provides training and coaches as well, like me, can
Hmm.
take this training, and you are very welcome. And they have online training. That's what I did. They have online training. So if you want to be a brain spotting provider, you can do that. They also have levels of training. And then if you have so many hours, you can become certified. I'm still new. You take the, you finish the first course and you can call yourself a brain spotting provider. And that's where I'm at now. And
Okay.
as you get more experience and take more levels of training, then uh, you can become certified. And brain spotting is not only used specifically for deep traumas, it can be smaller traumas. It's used a lot with athletic coaches, with sports people who, like, they have the wall, whatever that is, that they can only do 80% of what they need to go to get to the Olympics, to win that championship, whatever. They can go so far,
Yeah.
but then they hit a wall, whatever that is. And it's a psychological thing. If you saw, what was it, Ted Lasso on Apple, the second season and third season, they brought in a psychiatrist, a counselor, a therapist
Hmm.
for their teammates, going through, fighting whatever that wall is. They showed a few of the sessions, but these guys came out overcoming whatever that wall was to become better people, and as a result become better athletes. And that
Oh,
led
wow.
to the teams winning because whatever that therapist was helped overcome that wall. And brain spotting is another tool that those type of professionals can work with, sports trainers, uh, dealing with those kinds of things. And there's a whole
See, I
section
think
in
that
the
would
book
be
as
good
well.
for football too.
Yes,
Like my
exactly.
son, yeah, he plays football, but when I was football mom, I would get some of the boys that would come up to me, and they're young, and I
Right,
understand it, but we're not going to win, and da 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 da. And I was like, don't say we're not.
right.
Let's walk this through. So we
Yes, so
went to a
much.
more
It's mental.
positive box. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, it's
yeah. So,
positive, but then also, if, okay, yeah, I had this other coach, or my dad when I was 8 in Pee Wee football, he would just throw fits and yell at people, and that trauma is there, even though not sexual trauma, not severe, but that trauma, those memories, it's like, I felt so embarrassed. He did that. All those
yeah,
little tiny traumas, little T traumas, still can add up to a lot and can mess with you. And you find those and deal with them so you can get those out. And that neuroplasticity, you can retrain the brain to rewire that memory. And it's like, okay, and you can let go of that trauma. So you figure out where that
exactly.
is, and then, wow, you can do those hard things that you couldn't do before because you were hitting that wall, whatever that was.
You see, yeah, and I'm not having a squirrel moment. My friend, no, he's like squirrel. I call it squirrel moments now.
Oh yeah, I
But
attention
something you
issues. I
just,
get the squirrel thing. It's like, oh, a squirrel. Okay, yes, I totally get that.
yeah, we made it a point for like, I was diagnosed with squirrel syndrome or something. He goes, Nadine, you do good on your podcast, but you'll be talking to me. You'll talk about one subject and automatically go to a subject that we haven't even started on. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a breath. Let's backtrack. And then we're both like we're same age. And I was like, well, what were we talking about? He goes, I can't remember. And I go, well, I can't remember either. So there, that's just getting older kind of things. But
Right.
what you just said, I want to take a quick pause really quick
Hmm.
because you hit a spot. One of our sponsors here is called Snap Bands. Have you ever seen the Snap Bands
Oh,
yet?
very nice. Yes, I think I've seen those
That,
around. Very nice.
okay, mine says Hope.
Hmm.
And with this elastic, okay, well, number one, the company, they made these different color bracelets, all colors, and they call these mantra words. So there's like love and peace and hope, and they have faith now. I love it because he was like, Nadine, if they go to the website, they put in the code KHA, keep hope alive, they can get the word faith. And I was like,
Oh,
that is super cool. But with the elastic of these beautiful bracelets, you take it and just with a gentle pull, you snap it. And it's done by cognitive science. It sends a signal to your brain to kind of release that, like, I don't want to be stressed, or if you have anxiety, I say PTSD, and I bet OCD. Stop cleaning, no kidding. Um, but like I use mine because I hate to say it, I'm always in the hospital and I'm scared. Look at that. Who sticks me? It's 1 to 8 times to get a vein on me. So I'm always praying for them that they don't miss. But so it can help get those triggers out, and you're able to rethink the brain and everything. But they give a portion of proceeds to those communities who have organizations that help people with their anxiety and depression, getting rid of it too. Like I said, different colors, they're water resistant. They give you that inspiration to show the world out there you hope or pray or love or peace, whatever it may be. You can
right.
find them at www.snapbands.com, and they spell it SNAPPBANDZ.com. So I'm sorry, done with my squirrel moment.
No problem. Understand. And
But you
sponsors
were
are
talking
important.
about
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, watch, I'm gonna put squirrels in episodes now. So, but definitely when you brought up, the different ways of thinking about things, I was just
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, that's kind of what they stand for too.
Right,
So,
right. Constant
but
reminders. I know I do posters in my office space reminding me positive mantras, like you said, helping
yes,
reminding me of who I am, not who that wounded little boy thinks I am, but that I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, I have worth. Um, and all those positive messages that sometimes you've got to reinforce to rewrite all those negative messages that are stuck in there. And having those constant visual reminders are extremely helpful for the healing process for
they
sure. Yes.
They really are. I know with one of my jobs, they gave me a big whiteboard, but it was funny. My coworker, she would print out different sayings and stuff, and I did one. I forgot how it goes. Not my monkeys, not my circus, or maybe it's the
Oh,
other way
yes. Right.
around. So
Right.
yeah, I was just like, okay, because whatever stresses that I felt from the job in itself, it's not because of my doing. They're gonna have
Mhm.
to figure it out. I'm here to do one portion of my job and
Right.
keep my,
Yeah.
senses straight, focus on things. So, but
Yeah. I'm in the
yeah,
South.
and
They say I got no dog in that fight. So that yeah, because I guess dog fighting is a thing. I don't know, but yeah, I got no dog in that fight. So it's like you all do your thing. I'm not getting involved. I'm just here focusing on my thing. So yes, that's a
yes,
good Southernism. Yeah, I ain't got no
and
dog in that fight. So
Sotherism, I like that too.
yes,
Sotherism. I haven't heard that.
Southernism. Yep, yep. Lots of Southern sayings. Yeah, I've been here over 30 years in the South. All kinds of different expressions. But yeah, I do like
So
that.
where are you from?
I'm originally from Oregon, but I live in North Carolina. I've been here for about 30 years now. So,
The
my normal
South.
voice, yeah, this is my normal voice, but I'm hanging out with Southerners, and yeah, yeah, I get in there, and yeah, I get my little drawl on, and how y'all doing? All right, yeah, doing all right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
was born in New Jersey, and it's
Ah,
so funny because now I'm in Texas for over 30 years, but if
oh
I talk
yes,
to somebody from the East Coast, it's like it adapts again.
oh
But
right, I'm
like,
sure, yes,
yeah, my friend, he's pure country, and it's just like, what word is that? Like he
Hmm.
said reckon, and I was like,
Yeah.
reckon.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it's just
Rick.
those
Yep.
little things.
Right.
Or they say wash, and I think that's
Or
more
yep.
South Texas, but
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like wash.
Oh yeah. My wife, she grew up in Northern Virginia, but she's yeah, Washington, yeah. And the washing
Okay,
machine, yeah. She still has it's like one of those Southernisms that slipped in there, even though she's from Northern Virginia. Yeah,
exactly.
she's got a few little of those isms in there. That just make
Yeah.
her more and more adorable. And we've been together 34 years this fall. So, yes. Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes. Yes, she's been a
Are you
wonderful
planning her
support.
present for the 35th?
Don't know. I'm sure we'll plan something. Usually every 5 we go on some big vacation,
Good,
something.
good.
So yeah, that sounds like a good time to go on a nice vacation. So we just
Yeah.
bought a new house. So that was our
Oh,
thing this
okay.
year. So we've been here.
You're
Yeah, so
like,
that's the big one.
that's your gift.
So yeah, we've been here about 6 months now. And really enjoy it.
Good, 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 good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so, I want to go back to the hard topic if you're
Hmm.
okay with that,
Certainly.
because, there's things that people who are listening and, you know, I know in Texas that word sex traffic comes up a lot.
Yes.
So, for somebody who doesn't really understand what all is involved with it, can you help explain what it is?
Well, the concept of trafficking, I know there's a legal definition, but basically anytime uh, and we talk about child trafficking. Adults can be trafficked as well, but for child trafficking, it's when someone takes a child and uses them for some kind of personal gain. So whether it's monetary or food or housing or drugs or whatever, some kind of gain is gotten by taking this child and offering up so that a third person can then use that child and that third person then gives whatever that gain is to the person offering the child or if for an adult, it would be an adult. So some kind of exchange happens, and that children can't consent. So for the adult who's being trafficked, it's without their consent, or they are coerced through whatever means to
Mm-hmm.
provide that. Sexual trafficking means it was some kind of sexual thing, whether that was posing for pornography, just being abused by an individual, being brought to some kind of sexual exploitation offense, think orgy, basically, where
Mm-hmm.
it's multiple adults, multiple child victims, uh, and that child either coerced or parents forced, some kind of forced thing is going on where, yeah, children can't consent to sex to begin with. For me, I was sedated. I did not know anything was going on. I was sedated, and then my father would have these convenient excuses for me. Oh, we just went on camping trips, and I'd go
And
away for the
I'm
weekend.
like, wow.
And so my family just assumed we were off going a camping trip. When I'd come back, so how's camping? What are you talking about? Oh, you're so silly. You don't remember anything. And yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, and I was sedated. I remembered nothing until I think the last thing. Um, Long story, but yeah. But there's a book, The Body Keeps the Score, and traumas, how the body works. You have all these body memories, even if you don't have visual memories, your body remembers the trauma.
Yeah.
And when, especially for childhood, severe childhood trauma, that your brain takes those traumas, locks them away so you don't remember. That's where repressed memories come from because your body cannot deal with trauma if it dealt with it, you would stop breathing and you would die. So your body, okay, we can't deal with this. We have to put this away and lock it up so you can keep living, so you can keep breathing.
Yeah.
So we're not going to think about this trauma anymore. We're going to put it away so you can still function. And your brain automatically does that. That's how our brains were designed to do. Um, Animals are wonderful. If you see any kind of traumatic thing, they shake it. I'm always in my headset, but they shake it off. Like the song, yeah, you shake it off, and you'll see like dogs,
Hmm.
cats. It's like, oh, and they're gone. Oh, I'm good. That's what they do. They're built
Wow.
in to release that trauma, and then they're fine. They shake it off, literally. Humans don't do that. We lock it away. And
That's what I hear, locking it
so,
away, and it
right,
could be
but
years.
yeah, I call it a vault, but it's a leaky vault. So that trauma, it still leaks and informs the victim and how you
Hmm.
respond to things, even though you don't even remember that because it's locked away. It's informing your life choices, how you respond to things, how you respond to the people around them. And you'll notice, okay, this happened. They respond way up here, even though it was something small, but that's called a trigger. So
Yeah.
some response way beyond what it should be compared to whatever that thing that happened was. And that's a triggered response because it's related to that trauma that they don't even necessarily remember, but the body remembers and the body reacts from those wounds about that trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just makes me think, I guess, with trauma, it comes in all different forms.
Right.
For me, I know I've talked about it maybe once or twice, but I know I probably have like some PTSD of
Right.
medical because I
Yes,
had
medical
a,
traumas are very common, especially those procedures that children have, like young children, they can be horribly traumatic.
yes, I had a surgery and it was to have an ulcer removed. And this is after my gastric bypass. But one of the incisions had sinusitis, and I couldn't break
Oh, goodness.
102 fever. And I will never forget it because I am a photographer. I had a wedding that night, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna fight this. And I called the surgeon. He's like, no, get to the hospital right now.
Wow.
And thank God for internet and groups. I was able to find another photographer within minutes to take
Right.
my bride's wedding and do it for the same cost that I charged her. Um, but when I got there, it was like he was waiting for me, and I'll never forget this. It's like, Nadine, come now. There's no time to wait. We got to cut her open. And I was like, what? I was like, no, you need to knock me out. I'm not going to be, no time to wait. And they asked my mom, do you want to come? And she's like, yeah. And I was like thinking, okay, well, she watches that show, the pimple popping thing. Maybe she wants to be there. And then I was like, I saw nurses holding my other hand, and it was like an ER triage room.
Right.
So he puts on the gown the patient's supposed to wear. He's like, you're going to feel needles. And then he had to cut me open. I was wide awake. Smell, feel, touch.
Right. That's
I
a lot
am
of trauma
so
for sure. Yes.
traumatized from that. What was it? I had a rash on my neck recently, and they said
Mm.
they had to biopsy it and that they were going to stick needles in my neck. I flipped out.
Right.
I had tears coming down, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but I know why this is happening. I go, when I got cut open, that's all I could tell this new doctor.
Right.
I was cut open and they wouldn't knock me out. And whenever I hear somebody wants to just open or stick something in me, I flip
Right. Because your
because,
body is reacting to that, all those
yeah,
memories that you're holding from that
yeah,
event, very traumatic, and now you're having trauma response related to that. Now they have what's
yeah.
called, and that's a perfect definition of PTSD, perfect example of that. They have what's
Hmm.
called CPTSD, which stands for complex PTSD. It is, they have the DSM, which is the diagnostic manual for all those things in the US. It is not in the US manual, it is in the international version, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
ISM blah 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 4 or 5 or 6, whatever the version is. It's in the new international
Yeah.
version equivalent. It is still not in the US version yet, but so many clinicians, there's so much more research on it now that it has a name and it's recognized internationally. Okay, a lot more research is in that, and it's complex PTSD because for those of us who had childhood traumas and not just one event like you described, but event
Yeah.
after event after event after event. So years of abuse piled on top of that, years of being trafficked, all of those traumas where your brain, what happens? What happened in that surgery when you went under that knife and you were still awake? What happened to your brain? All those brain chemicals, the cortisol, all those other brain chemicals were released. It's the or fight, flight,
Flight.
freeze. There's like 6 of them. Faint,
Yeah.
fawn. There's a bunch of them in there. Uh, but those brain chemicals are released, going, trauma is happening. Okay, you need to find something to deal with. Okay, you got the nurse. That's why the nurse is holding your hand. Okay, we're going to get you through this. Okay, we're holding your hand so you can go, oh, I'm going to squeeze the crap out of their hand while they're holding it because this is horrible. And they know that. So they know, oh, yeah, she's going through trauma. We're helping her through that. But for the child going through trauma after trauma after trauma, those brain chemicals constantly being released. When the trauma finally stops, the brain doesn't know to turn off.
Oh
So
no.
those chemicals are continually being fed even when the trauma ends. So the child is constantly in that fight, flight, freeze state and doesn't go off of it even after the trauma stops. So things like hypervigilance, where, okay, and people who've gone through a lot of childhood trauma, okay, where's the exit? Don't like big crowds. Oh, I'm in a big crowd. Okay, I'm going to be in the
Mm-hmm.
back or near the exit. Figure out where all the exits are. Okay, stay in the back near the exit, and then I can see where everyone is, but I can make a quick getaway if I have to. So much subconsciously. And it's like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable in crowds, but I don't know why. Especially if, like me, so much of it was hidden. But that's the CPTSD. It's complex PTSD because it was ongoing for so long. And so part of the healing process is processing all those traumas, getting the brain to a point where it can stop releasing the cortisol. And those things do so much damage
Oh
over
yeah.
time to our bodies because our bodies weren't designed to hold all those brain chemicals for so long. And they've done research. Are you familiar with ACEs?
No.
ACE, it's the adverse childhood experiences. What this is several years ago, Kaiser Permanente did a research with the Centers for Disease Control, found a group in their network in the San Diego area. So these were mostly white, mostly middle class, upper class, people who had jobs that could afford to have Kaiser Permanente, which is a huge HMO, especially on the West Coast, as part of their jobs. Okay, so that's the clientele. They gave them a survey, 10 questions. Okay,
Okay.
at the start of this research. Okay, and basically all the most common traumas, childhood traumas you would have experienced. So, parents divorced, death in the family, parent incarcerated, including sexual abuse. They had a list of just 10 questions. Tons of other traumas could have happened, but for this research, they have to narrow it down 10 questions, okay? And look to see what their answers were, yes or no. Did you ever
Mm-hmm.
experience this one or more times? Yes, yes, yes. Looking at, for those who had 0 or 1 or 2, all of these horrible numbers of statistics with pregnancy, addictions, um, suicide attempts. But then the research was showing, okay, liver problems, COPD, all of these physical health problems all correlate into 3, 4, 5. Most of the graphs that came out, they say 5 plus. It's like boom, 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 5 plus. So even 3, 4, 5 huge jumps in numbers for all of these different things that they researched. And I got a PDF that describes it beautifully, and I'll send you a link to that, and you can share that with
Wow.
your listeners.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
and you can take the quiz yourself. And keep in mind, it was just to study the effects of childhood trauma on average people in the US. And the research was huge, and then they've done a lot more studies and things to counteract that. And there's things to counteract those traumas so they have less effect on you. But so many long-term effects that they have, resulting in, okay, just having a few of those things happen, all those brain chemicals released in your body and so forth have profound physical and social effects on you. And all this research, the numbers are just astounding. It's like, wow.
Wow.
So I think I
Yeah.
got like 6, 7 with all my traumas. I think, yeah, I think I'm at a 6 out of all those. No one incarcerated. There's several. I met people who, yeah, have bins. Um, but you can see just with a few traumas how that affects us physically and mentally. And just astounding. Even if you have, well, I have all these other things. Well, if you want to count those, it's just not part of this research. But yeah, add however many, and it's 9, 10, fine, you're up there, and you realizing all of these horrible things happen because how trauma affects the body, affects the
Oh, yeah.
mind, affects the brain, all of that. And yeah, this is all brain research in the last 15, 20 years that's coming to the forefront. So now we know how to start healing trauma. And so you don't have to be stuck. Healing is out there. You just have to look for it. So many different avenues, including brain spotting.
And Brainspotting, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of because a lot of my guests, we talk about self-love and knowing who
Hmm.
you are. And, it can also help with health.
Right.
Also, take those pains away. So I think we are capable out of talking to everybody to help clear our energy, our soul, so we don't get health problems. And then also with what you're saying, if trauma does exist, kind of really understand what happened and how you can heal is what I'm hearing from
Right.
you.
Exactly.
It's going to be work with you and accepting that you have to do this for you for
Right.
it to be able to work. It's not doing it for anybody else. So taking
Right.
in like kind of like the sex abuse, you know, if it was me, I'd be like, well, how many times did this happen to me? What was going on like at the time? Why was this happening? What did I witness? What was going on after, before? So for me, and the way my brain works, I would probably dissect it and see how I can take each one and learn how to heal. But I'm not going to say just do it by yourself. It's always good to talk to somebody too. And like with you knowing the brain spotting, definitely. So if you can help people out there, I would say call and get the help that is needed to get
Right.
through this trauma. And
Right.
because when you release it and talk about it, it helps greatly. Like,
Right.
I'm only educated here in relationships, so I can tell people relationship coaching stuff all the time, but you know, I can't
And
compare the
those
two because
traumas
they're so separate.
will relate to the relationships. So trauma that you had in your past relating to your parents or whatever will,
Yeah,
like those vaults, those leaky vaults, they will leak into your relationships.
I
And
know.
whoever you're with, they could say something that then triggers a memory from one of those traumatic things. And you will
Yes,
go off on
yes.
them even though it was so minor, but you will go off on them because you're reacting through that screen, that filter of those past unresolved traumas. And
Yeah.
so much relationship healing can happen when you look at your own past traumas and get those resolved.
Yeah, definitely. And that's super important. So I know for me, I haven't been the best person in the world today right now, but I look at knowing who I am, loving myself and getting
Right.
myself grounded and setting up the boundaries where is needed to,
Right.
so
And healthy
everybody,
boundaries, that's another thing. That's a great thing. So many
mhm,
of us with so much trauma have such a hard
mhm,
time with boundaries because all that abuse and so forth, we're people pleasers. So we
yes,
have no boundaries because those boundaries were stripped from us.
yep,
So we want to people please. So we will go out of our way to help uh, everyone around us except ourselves because we're not worthy.
exactly.
We're crap. We're junk. We're worthless. But okay, I need to please these people because that's how we're trained. We don't even realize that we're doing it half the time. All those codependent reactions to life, the people pleasing and so forth, that all comes from stored trauma.
You see, and that's something for me. I probably have that too. I was like, I'm not going to be a people pleaser anymore. Like, what hurts, hurts. Let's work on it. So,
Mhm.
in this phase of my life, that's what I've been doing. Why am I getting hurt? Who is hurting me? The words that are being said. Why is this happening? Because I can't let those be triggers the rest of my life. I can say to the person who is doing it to me, I feel this when you say this. I kind of like, I'm not a counselor, but I'm going to talk like one to help them understand that, hey, there is concern. Let's clean up our acts so we don't say something wrong that would be triggering to somebody. So,
Mhm.
it's just knowing what works with you as a person.
Right.
And, as I try to move on in this world, I promise whoever I'm going to meet next is going to know what boundaries and what I've been through. So they know how I operate. What are
Right.
my likes? What are my dislikes? Because, yeah, memories can come up and be like,
Right.
well, this and this happened to me, but you don't want to overwhelm the other person with that.
Right.
So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like when you say that you have the support groups, which is great. So having those and you said it was for men. It's
Yes.
like a men's group.
What I do with coaching, my caseload is all males, and Polar
Mm-hmm.
Life Consulting. That's with Polar Life Consulting. Also, with husband material, it's also specifically for men dealing with pornography addiction, but then to a broader extent, any sexual brokenness issue, whether
Yeah.
you're acting out with others, all those things of sexual brokenness, uh, all of that information is so helpful in healing. Now, there are lots of other resources for women experiencing trauma, women who have abuse histories, women who are trafficked, lots of resources out there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot less for men. And that's why I think they and I focus on males because there is so few resources out there for us.
And there needs to be because it goes both ways.
Right.
So,
Like when you think of trafficking, okay, women are the victims, men are the buyers and the traffickers. So they're the pimps and the buyers. They call them Johns, but that's not the case. That there are males who are victims, there are females who are the quote unquote pimps, they are the traffickers.
yeah,
And not always, but there are a large percentage of women that people that doesn't fit the vision that you have when you think of trafficking. Oh, it's a guy taking advantage. No, oftentimes it's a female who's taking advantage of this person being trafficked. And females can also be buyers. They're the Johns. That's why they don't like the term Johns because it assumes male. There are
yeah.
female buyers as well, female sellers, female buyers, and
Wow.
victims can be males. And so much of the literature and so forth, it's like they don't even look at men, they just assume it's females. And part of the reason why so many men, uh, it's out there, CDC says for females, 1 in 4 females are sexually abused or assaulted by the age of 18 in the US. For men, 1 in 6. men are sexually abused or assaulted by the age of 18 in the US, and they think that's low
Mm,
because
okay.
boys don't tell.
So
And
if you're a boy, you gotta open up, you
right,
know?
but then also how they're groomed, and because of how the male body is created, any kind of touch, you will physiologically respond. And the groomers will know that and say, oh, look, you had an erection. Well, hey, that means you like this, and that means you're giving consent and you want this. And that's part of the brainwashing to convince the victim that they are consenting, that they are condoning, that they are cooperating in this and they are part of it, to convince them so they don't even recognize the fact that they're abused. It's often 20, 25 years after the abuse ends before they can even acknowledge and tell someone that this stuff happened. Because it's not just they're not telling, they don't even have the vocabulary to realize, oh, that was abuse. For those Leaving Neverland documentary on HBO
Yeah.
about famous person who abused boys. The focus on that. One of the abusers said, "Didn't even think about it being abused until my own son was the same age I was when I experienced the abuse, and then I realized if someone did to him what they did to me." As his father, I would be outlandish. Oh, well, of course that's abuse. And then it's like that stuff happened to me at that age. Oh, what happened to me was abuse. It takes those
That,
huge
yeah.
moments to realize that was abuse because so little is out there. Men don't tell, boys don't tell. So you think, oh, this happened to me, I'm the only one. And yeah, I kind of consented because, yeah, my body responded. So I must have been okay with it. And male rape, I mean, it's a huge joke. Hey, yeah, go to prison. Don't drop that soap in the shower. Okay, it's a rape joke. And that's so in the culture. It's like it's so dismissed as some dismissible thing. It's a joke. So people don't take it seriously because the culture doesn't take it seriously. But yeah, that actually happens, and it's horrendous. It's horrendous and traumatizing.
You see, I want to have something, things, the Amber Alert or Mothers
Right,
Against Drunk Driving. I mean, there has to be something that we can create for girls and boys, women and men. Still, like if we're older, there has to be something that we can do that is our screamer help. Whether we don't want to talk about or do, we just can click a button like, hey, this happened, this was in
right.
the now, I'm gonna eventually need help.
Yeah, well, for most trafficking, kids are trained stranger danger. Okay, someone comes up with a van, offers them candy, and then takes them away. Very, very small percent of child abuse happens in that situation. It
Okay.
is grooming. It is a trusted adult who not only grooms the child, they groom the family, they groom the organization, whether athletic or religious or whatever. So they become a trusted adult. They're not, but they are viewed as that. So if someone goes around and says this happened, that victim would not be believed because they think this person is this one outstanding citizen. And so, no, you're lying. Why would you make up a story? He's this wonderful person who does all these things.
It's kind of like saying the story of the narcissist.
Right.
People can see
Yes.
them on the outside world as perfect and wonderful, but then bam,
Exactly.
behind doors, it's a different story.
Exactly. And so that's how they get away with it. And they convince the child, oh no, if you tell, these horrible things are going to happen. That's part of the grooming. So if you do tell someone, oh, well, you're involved, so then yeah, you're getting get in trouble too. Um, and then you're going to put away in that, or if you tell, okay, your dad's going to come after me and hurt me, and then he's going to go to jail because he's hurting me, and then he won't be there for your mom. They will make all these
Manipulation.
stories manipulating the situation to convince the child to not tell. And that's part of the grooming.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so much of it happens. So you need to trust your children, know your children, give them
Yeah.
body autonomy. So if, yeah, Aunt Clara comes and she wants to give a big old sloppy kiss, no, oh, go hug Aunt Clara. She's been away for years and she's here visiting. No, I really don't want to honor that. Honor
Yeah.
that. If they don't want to give a hug, they don't want to. Or, hey, yeah, yeah, Uncle Larry's having you come to his cabin for the summer. Would you like to? No, I really don't want to. Oh, you had so much fun last year. No, I don't want to. They're telling you something without telling you something. So
Yeah.
listen to your children, especially changes to likes, dislikes, something that doesn't quite make sense. Listen to them. If a child comes and tells you that something bad happened, something sexual, believe them. The
Oh,
number of made
yeah.
up cases are so, so small. Children don't make this stuff up. It's
No, they
so,
don't.
so small. So you need to believe your children, and you need to develop a relationship where they can come to you when stuff is awful. Um, be involved in your children's lives. It's
Hmm.
those children, it's the predators, it's like African safari. The lion looks at the herd of wildebeest. Okay, it's the slow one, it's the injured one, it's the weak one. That's the one I'm going to go after.
Yeah.
Predators, same thing with children. Oh, he isolates. He doesn't talk to the other kids. He's lonely. His parents are too busy or divorced. So maybe dad's not involved. So they it's like literally like a neon sign above the child's head, victim, victim, victim. And they'll pick them right out of the herd. That's who they're going to go after. So
Yeah. I
do
I mean,
what you
I
need to
see.
do to counteract those things so they are not a victim. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee.
There
But be
isn't.
there for
And
your children for sure.
yeah, and if there's any single parents, like I'm a single parent, I made sure even when I found out I was pregnant, they're like, "Do you need a minute to yourself?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I remember shutting my eyes and put my hands on my belly, going, "Okay, we got each other." I was
Right.
like, I know I made a comment. You can have his eyes, but everything else, me. But like the way I raised my son is playing both parts. And now at his age, there's one thing I fear, but I got over that hurdle because I told myself I got this, even though it's a slow process, because I know school's gonna start talking about this. I think it's seventh, eighth grade, but the birds and the bees. Like
Right.
I need to because
Right.
he's probably seen something on TikTok or a movie or
Yes.
something and be like, what's that? You
The
know?
average age of pornography exposure right now, average 8 years old.
Oh boy.
8 years old because of these fancy little things that
Cell
everyone
phones.
carries. Yeah, so many kids have these and they can pull something right up and your kid, your little 7, 8 year old hanging out at school, play yard, after school, park, whatever. Oh, take a look at this. Boom, it's in their face without even giving permission, without even being able to say no. Boom, it's
Yeah.
right there in their face of whatever porn that is pulled up because the kid has a smartphone and the phone and the parents didn't put any kind of porn blocker or whatever on there. And so, yeah, they'll pull up whatever. And it's like, whoa, 8 years old is average. So now all of those boys get addicted to porn already. So it's like, oh, well, how do I do that? How do I have more of that? So they're exposed at an early age. Internet's right there.
Yeah.
Right. So That's why internet pornography addiction is so rampant in this country, because so many
Mm-hmm.
males as boys are exposed earlier and earlier. And so that becomes an instant drug. And when you the horror of pornography is the little search bar. So it's not just show me porn. It's like, oh, you watch that. Oh, well, how about this? So you go from vanilla porn to A, B, C, D, and you find your particular niche. And it has the same thing as crack, to your brain, because it's instant gratification and you're hitting whatever that spot is, whatever. And that's one of the things that husband material deals with. Okay, why do you put those words in the search bar instead of all these other versions?
Gotcha.
There's a story behind that. There's a story behind that, and it's usually childhood trauma, childhood wounds, unresolved, that
Gotcha.
informs, or that leaky vault that informs what we're putting in the search box, what
Oh,
is
wow.
pushing our buttons and feeding that. Because it's like, oh, okay, oh, that does it. Well, what if I do that? Ooh, that's even more. Oh, I like that even better. And so it's this addiction where you're getting something stronger and stronger and stronger. And till, okay, you reach a point, okay, now I need I'm not even, this isn't even doing it for me. I'm going to act out because it's just getting that drug. And then they
Oh,
try to
wow.
have human relationships with another person and don't know how to interact because of all those wounds from the pornography, thinking, oh, she's going to act just like they did, you know, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not. Yeah, they use, yeah. Your wife is not a sex vending machine where you pop a quarter in and she performs. But that's
That's a good
what
saying.
that's what pornography trains the male mind to do. It's like, oh, because I just push a button and they do it. So when I get married, I can do that too. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a relationship. It's communication.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's not, yeah, you stick a quarter in, and churches are horrible that they think the wife needs to perform and do this act for the husband. And they encourage that mindset that, yeah, they're just a sex vending machine, and they're not. And so much wounding is happening even in the church with that concept. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been married, what, 3 times. I remember going through the church thing. That is the saying that well, they don't say it like you're going to
right.
do this and this sexual for him, but it kind of gives the impression be there by your man and da da da. So, um, yeah, I just sometimes I do hear that and wish it was reworded in today's age
Right.
because I don't know. It's just, I always think, would I get married again? And I'm a certified wedding planner, but I'm watching, especially now, people are doing micro weddings, something quick, or
Right.
some can get in arguments, or they're just getting married because it's convenient, or it's not for the right reasons.
Hmm.
So, I always joke around in second grade. I had the girl who sat across me, she's the divorce lawyer. And now, if I look at her profession against a wedding planner, she's banking. She's banking. So I kid around with myself when I die and I come back for my second life, maybe I could be a divorce lawyer.
Well, they
But
have like
then I
divorce
think
parties. It's like where, yeah, you
I'm
celebrate the divorce,
sure
and yeah, plan those. Those are like a thing I've
we get
heard.
judged if we
Yes.
offer that as a service. It's being judged on our
Oh, yes, that's
character.
true.
Well, why
Yes.
are they doing that? So it's just different. So,
Yeah.
but you have gone over so much with us today.
We went
I'm
all over the
surprised.
gamut. Yes.
I know. So if people wanted to come and reach you and find out more information, how could they find you on social media?
Certainly my main website, PolarLifeConsulting.com,
Okay.
POLAR, and the podcast is Healing for Male Survivors with Mike Chapman on all platforms. If that's too much, go to PolarLifeConsulting.com/podcast, and it has all my episodes, all the different services you can click on and go right to my podcast on your provider as well. Husbandmaterial.com is the website for the porn addiction. They also have a podcast. All those topics we talked about, they have
Yeah.
episodes on, they have an audio version and a YouTube version, full video. My podcast is audio only. Oftentimes, I have guests who want to tell their story and be anonymous, and having audio only kind of lends itself to that. So mine is audio only, but a lot of those topics we talked about are on Husband Materials podcast, and you can go on YouTube and search Husband Material, and you'll get
Awesome.
the podcast. Drew Boa, BOA, is the director, and he hosts the podcast. And 3, 4 years worth of podcast episodes, one a week, tons of information on all these topics we talked about today and more.
Yeah. Gotcha. Kind of dissected in there too, so people know
Exactly.
exactly. Wow. Well, you provided so much education for me, and I felt like I was being brought into the world of what the victims go through, but also how to maintain and work on that because trauma does stick and you need to work on it because looking at your brain, your model brain, everything in the green, it's just a float, but it gets stuck. And then it makes me think of the movie Inside Out,
Right.
suppressed
Yes.
memories. You've got to
And
move them through the little
that
circle thing.
that movie, they worked with all psychologists and all these specialists, so
Yes.
there's so much truth in that movie. And then they made the second. I haven't seen the sequel yet. I
I
know a
haven't
lot
seen
of
the second one
friends
either.
that have gone, including my friends from Husband Material. It's like, oh, this is so good, and it so much applies to all of us. Because then, yeah, this is
Yeah.
the main girl is now a teenager, like entering puberty, and then all these new emotions pop out, just like all of us experienced, and it's just
Oh my gosh, I gotta
so
go see it.
real. And I guess from that, they're actually going into a series on Disney Plus for Inside
Good.
Out, where they're expanding those themes even more. Same character,
Okay.
adding more emotions, more issues, and so forth coming up. And it's just brilliant. I know my daughter saw it when that first movie came out, and she said, she cried, and it's like she understood so much more about those emotions that she deals with. That can be overwhelming
You
at times, and it's
see,
just
yeah,
such an
I know
easy way
that's out.
to understand that. Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, I want to go to the movies tonight. I'm trying to make a decision. I know that movie's out, or I can go see Twisters. And the kid in me
Oh,
is like,
yes.
Twisters! Because I've always wanted to be a storm chaser. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
just read the main actor in Twisters, way off into we're off into rabbit hole territory, but he was in Spy Kids 3. He was one of the kids in Spy Kids 3. This actor who's now everywhere in all these movies that I've seen over the last year or so. That main guy in Twisters. Yeah, he was one of the Spy Kids in Spy Kids 3. It's like,
wow.
really? So he's been around a long time. Uh doing this acting stuff, but only now I mean, he's been in all these movies over the last year. It's like
That's
he's
fun.
everywhere. It's like, where did he come from? And they said, yeah,
This
so he
is
was a
so
child
good.
actor as well. So, little side note, but yeah.
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. I'm just happy this year they're coming out with Beetlejuice, and I think
Oh,
they're
I know, I
making
love that. Yes.
Gremlins,
Oh, are they
Titanic.
doing
I don't
another
know
version of
about
Gremlins? Oh,
Titanic.
cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So much
I named
nostalgia.
my dog Gizmo.
Oh, lovely. I love that movie. That was a great movie, and yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of jump
definitely.
scares, and yeah. Yeah.
It's fun. It's so fun. Well, I want to really quick thank our other sponsors who also keep Hope Alive afloat. So, as I mentioned, our first one was lifeonrecord.com with the vintage phone where you can record a thank you or congratulations and they'll burn it on that 12-inch vinyl record or a boombox for you or the keepsake speaker, sorry. Snapbands was our second sponsor at www.snapbands.com. They help reduce the anxiety, depression, I'm going to say PTSD and stuff like that with the gentle pull of the back of there. It gives a signal to the brain to help release that. Also, we have Ogden Ventures LLC, Marcus Ogden. He is a former NFL player. He is now a podcaster, author, and a motivational speaker. You can find him at www.marcus, and it's spelled Marquess, and last name Ogden, ODGEN.com. Our next one is Bridal Shows Inc. Naomi Butler. She's been running this for years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, about maybe 5 to 6 shows, trade shows for the bridal event industry. So you can plan your whole event with one trade show. Meet vendors that are DJs, photographers, caterers, go see the fashion show, everything. So you can get all those shows dates right from her website. Our next one is Bryce Harney, www.brycemagic.com, and it's BRICE magic. So I wanted to make sure I spelled his name out. He is a wonderful magician. He's been seen on the news stations, TV shows, and he's traveling the United States. He works corporate events, even church events, bringing everybody together and theming up the whole show. So check out his information at his website. Our next one is Miles and Smiles Events, Miss Deborah Rose, or Colleen Rose. She is so outgoing, funny. I love her, and she's accurate. So she does handwriting analysis and lipstick readings. So if you're looking for somebody who can wow your event, contact her. Next, RichmondPunch.net. Richmond graduated from the Juilliard's top honors. He is a violinist, has been in the industry for over 30 years. He's been seen on a couple of TV shows and he's performed in front of 1 million people. He is one of the best out there. Please reach out to him. He is on tour right now too. So you can see what city he's at or just check out Keep Hope Alive Facebook, and you'll find it there. Remember, if you have any questions for us or even Mike, you can call 833-780-HOPE, which is 4673, and we'll get those questions answered. Please subscribe at www.keephopealivepodcast.com. And I want to say thank you, Mike, once again for coming on. You were great, 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 great. I learned a lot from you, but I want to bring you back next year too and kind of
I would
follow
love
up.
that. Yes.
Yay! And I gotta say, you look like Santa Claus.
Well, that is part of my story, and if you go to my website, you'll see polarlifeconsulting.com/about my full story, including video versions of my story. And part of it, I am also a part-time professional Santa Claus portrayal artist. And that part of my life is Santa Mike ENC for Eastern North Carolina, where I live, santamikeenc.com. So yes, I'm actually also a professional Santa, so that's why Polar Life
Yay!
Consulting is where I get that name from, Polar Life, and why you see me in a lot of red and sometimes green as well.
And let me guess, your wife is Mrs. Claus.
Yes, she is. Yes. And we do a lot of events together, and it's been quite a wonderful journey, in addition to all
Okay,
the other things I do. Yes.
we're going to do Santa and Miss Claus for this December. I'm going to bring you on in November.
Oh, we would love that.
Good, good. Well, until next time, guys, love and light. Mwah. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.